Hi everyone, I'm Bob Jenkins. Welcome to SpeedWeek.
And I'm Larry Newber. Now, despite the fact that it's still only mid-March, stock cars, sprints, and dragsters were all in action last week.
And the NASCAR Grand National Series has its first repeat winner in the early 1985 season. It happened in Hampton, Georgia at Atlanta International Raceway. Mark Allen reports.
The main point of interest in the Coca-Cola 500 was what effect Bill Elliott's fractured left leg would have on his driving. Though Jody Ridley stood by to relieve Elliott in the number 9 Ford, the home state favorite not only hung tough, but by the 240-mile point had lapped all but 3 cars. Number 5 Jeff Bodine was about to be put a lap down when number 7 Kyle Petty spun in turn 2 for only the event's second caution. Of the day's total 6 yellow flags, the most significant was waved just past the halfway point for outside pole sitter number 27 Tim Richmond, whose engine let go as he was still in contention. For the next 150 miles, number 28 K.O. Yarborough, also in a Ford, began pulling away from Elliott, whose leg was becoming increasingly painful along with ill handling. If Yarborough didn't break, it was his race. But 72 laps from his 7th Coca-Cola 500 win, Yarborough made a hard left turn into the garage with a blown engine. That put Elliott back on top, but number 11 Darrell Waltrip was the fastest car running, having unlapped himself. A late caution put him in Elliott's mirror on the restart, but several laps later, Waltrip's engine called it quits, leaving Bodine and pole sitter Neil Bonnet to chase down the Coors Melling machine. With Waltrip out, Elliott was able to hold off Bodine for a 2.5-second victory. Elliott becomes the first driver to win 2 Winston Cup races this season and moves up to 5th in the seasonal points battle. From the Atlanta International Raceway, this is Mark Allen reporting.
The Winston Cup points now have Jeff Bodine on top with Neil Bonnet second, followed by Labonte, Waltrip, and Elliott. The second 5, Earnhardt, Gant, Speed, Hillen, and Kyle Petty.
Saturday's prelude was the ARCA stock cars. Former Daytona ARCA winner Rick Wilson, Black 6, sat on the pole. Once a high school football nose guard, he led early, but shortly Indiana's Joe Boer inhaled a valve right through the exhaust pipes. Wilson is the first to slide, followed by at least 8 others. Fast newcomer Bob Penrod's hopes crushed. Davey Allison's last year's winner here in Val, but he'll stay on the lead lap. David Sosby needs a tow, and converted motorcycle racer Dale Singleton also did not get here under his own power. When the green unfurls, the blue of Glenn Sears out front fast. Jim Engels momentarily loses it in turn 4. Now, make a note of that. Meanwhile, North Carolina's Kirk Bryant, former wrench, is advertising number 12. Oops, there goes Engels again, practicing in the same spot. Sears and Allison are coming down for a showdown. Then first Allison slows, battery problems, and Sears scatters one. Bryant sweeps by for an uncontested victory, his first ever on a superspeedway. As the checkered falls, there's trouble in 3 and 4. No, that's just Engels again, the 3rd time in the same troublesome locale. Official finish, Bryant, Lee Raymond, Dave Simcoe, Bob Brevac, and Philip Duffy.
There's been one surprise after another since last Friday when Nashville International Raceway went on the auction block. Early developments are reported by Al Jerkins.
There were 9 bidders in all as a big crowd gathered under the grandstand of the Nashville International Raceway. Up for auction was the lease of the track that would more than likely not have NASCAR-sanctioned racing of any kind, at least in 1985. Gary Baker was there, and so was Ed Silva representing Darrell Waltrip. But the first surprise of the afternoon came when Warner Hodgson, the man who had declared bankruptcy in California, which in turn put the track in its current limbo status, walked up to the bidding table and signed up. He claimed he had been granted Chapter 7 bankruptcy, which allowed him to make the bid. In the late stages of the bidding war, it was between Hodgson and Baker. Finally, Baker bid $259,000. Hodgson immediately bid $260,000. Second surprise of the day, Hodgson bought the lease.
$260,000 sold. Bidder number 1.
All right. Thanks a whole lot. You wanted to screw it up in the first place.
Surprise number 3, Hodgson went immediately to Baker and tried to strike up a deal. He wanted to sell the track back to Baker.
I just want to tell you right now, you can have it at $260. It means a lot to you, and you talked about it.
I'll let you
so
know.
I don't want anybody to say, it wasn't right.
I'll let you know.
In fact, you can have it for $259. I'll lose $1,000.
And surprise number 4 came Monday afternoon when Warner failed to come up with the necessary money. So the leaseholder is second highest bidder, Gary Baker. Ascot Park in Gardena, California last Saturday night was the 3rd in the CRA USAC Challenge Series. The race attracted the largest crowd at Ascot in 9 years, and during 8 events, 91 laps of racing, there wasn't a single yellow flag. Eddie Worth, car 77, started from outside row 1 and led all 30 circuits in the main event. Mike Sweeney in the red number 5, shown racing here with Bubby Jones, wound up in second spot. Bob Mealy, car 88, the pole sitter, was third. Wayne Bennett took over Dean Thompson's ride and came in 5th. Dean is still battling a viral infection. Only 3 regular USACers made a show. Rick Hood's 14th was their best finish.
Next stop on the World of Outlaw Sprint Trail, an appropriate western city of Oklahoma City. Saturday's races rained out, but Rocky Hodges, who's becoming a bit of a fast habit, set quick time Sunday, but he was destined for only a quiet 8th in the main. Few moments are more exciting than the weekly 4-abreast parade formation. Other than maybe the start itself, Jack Hewitt, the outlaw of the outlaws, has the familiar Hampshire 63 tuned this day. Ohio's Brad Doty demonstrating for the Challenger Race Car Factory second. And a little further back, Jeff Swindell temporarily putting it on his big brother. Then suddenly, after 23 laps, here's the moment of the race. Hewitt slows in the groove. Doty says, "Hello, how are you?" There goes Sammy Swindell. There goes Doty, and that's it. Another Swindell checkered. Steve Kinzer 6th, by the way. Bobby Allen, who often wears an old Kinzer uniform. Next, Jeff, promoter Shane Carson, and Danny Smith.
The temperature was only in the 40s and it was windy, but Eastern sprint car fans didn't mind. The famed Williams Grove Speedway in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania was lifting the lid on its 1985 season, and the defending track champion gave notice that he's ready to win the title again. The early portion of the main event was led by number 28, Joey Gravino, although Keith Kaufman in the red number 77 was never too far behind. Doug Banda brought out the yellow flag when he backed his sprinter into the main stretch guardrail, but no injury. On the restart from another yellow, Gravino was slowing to a stop in turn 1. Kaufman's main competition now comes from Doug Wolfgang in the number 29 Weichert car. But then all of a sudden, Doug is in the pits with engine trouble. Chuck Ward flips in turn 1 and later is treated for a broken thumb. Kaufman, the 1984 track champion, beats Steve Siegel, Maynard Yingst, Frankie Kerr, and Ty Scott to the checkered.
I tell you, the man is hot, and he proved it on a cool night in Northern California last weekend. First race of the Baylands Raceway Association. Now, this man, Chuck Gurney, is usually the one to beat. But when Sacramento's Jimmy Sills took the helmet dash, he served notice he's still on a roll. Getting this year's first feature going was, difficult. First, Dean Nelson got upside down, then a couple of more restarts, and this 9-car gathering on the front stretch. Gurney hit hard, and T.J. Winningham splashing into the infield casual water for the second time. They don't call this Baylands for nothing. Well-known Gary Lynch, the yellow 8, looked like a winner until the Sills Express motored by. Here comes Jimmy winning, then Lynch, Tom Henry, and a native Ohioan, Rick Unger.
Coming up, a female wrench beats the national champ in NHRA.
Was divided among California, Texas, and Pennsylvania. All drag racing focus was on Florida. These, the NHRA Motorcraft Gator Nationals. Lee Shepard's practice death leaves a big void in the pro stock field, but the final, a fitting classic. Duluth Warren Johnson just lost out to Lee for last year's championship, and all-time NHRA winner Bob Glidden. WJ gets the victory. Funny Cars, John Lombardo, his second final ever against Kenny Bernstein, his only win last year here. And again, Gainesville smiles on the smiling man. Here's the day's mismatch. Defending champ Joe Amato against Michigan's Dick LaHaye. His daughter is his crew chief. They both wiggle a little, but wait, it is the LaHayes. A great upset victory early in the new season.
The 7-Eleven Chief Auto Parts sponsored number 40 Patrick March will be driven this year by Emerson Fittipaldi on the IndyCar Trail. He signed a 3-year contract with Patrick. Emerson ran 9 races last year, finished a poor 32nd at Indianapolis, something he hopes to change this year.
For sure I'm looking for mainly Indianapolis. I mean, Indianapolis is a big race, is a big event. It's very traditional world-wise, and I want to do this year properly. Last year, I mean, the team they try hard, but they got the car very late, and I didn't run a lot before official practice. And I want to be prepared and well organized this year, and I'm sure if Patrick race in 7-Eleven, I have a good chance to do well. I'm very pleased.
Fittipaldi has already tested the car, and its debut is scheduled for Long Beach on April 14th.
And there appears to be some kind of merger possibility between Team Lotus and the Provimi Veal IndyCar team. Now, Ari Leyendijk would definitely have a ride. Willie T. Ribbs says he has a very firm contract with Lotus, but Teo Fabi has also been mentioned as a driver on the team.
Until this week, all IndyCar tests were with the new short track marches, but not anymore. This speck shimmering through the heat waves of Turn 4 at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway is the first long track march to undergo testing. The new car's designer is Robin Hurd.
It's completely new. For the first time we came here in '81, we obviously had to start with a clean sheet of paper. And the cars 81, 82, and 83, and 84 were all a logical development. But last year it got a little too competitive for our liking. And we had to start with the proverbial clean sheet of paper. This is it.
The side pods on the 85 version are rounded and have air deflectors attached to the rear, streamlining airflow over the tires. A rocker-type rear suspension allows the shocks to be mounted near the center of the car. The gearbox, a special March design slim model. The front of the tub has 2 areas of access. The sides of the cockpit have been raised and reinforced, and a new rear wing increases downforce with less drag. How fast will it go on pole day at Indy?
I think the off-coded 215 is going to be about the mark for pole this year. One of the things that we should note is that people say, well, the regulations are wrong, but because people raise the sides from 2 inches to from 1 inch to 2 inch. But we shouldn't forget that if they hadn't changed the regulations in this way, I think we'd be looking at 220, and that really is just too much.
That car, of course, was Michael Andretti's. The new March factory car with Bobby Rahal was scheduled for testing late this week.
And in our next segment, Mears. Another Mears is back in the winner's circle.
And Waltrip signs to do some Grand Mark races. Stay with us. Crowd at Los Angeles County Fairgrounds in Pomona saw the second round of the Mickey Thompson Off-Road Series last weekend. 5 classes competed on the short, tight course, including the trucks and the single-seaters, some of which didn't stay on 4 wheels all evening. Frank Arciero Jr. walked off with honors in the F1 final, while Roger Mears, who hadn't lost a race at the LA Fairgrounds since last April, carved his way through traffic to capture the truck feature in his Nissan number 7. Other winners included Brent Edwards from Mesa, Arizona in the ATC division, and Craig Duffries in a Fiero in the Ultra Stocks.
One team that will not be at the IMSA race in Sebring this weekend is the team that won the 24 Hours of Daytona last year. SpeedWeek has learned that Creepy Crawley has withdrawn its sponsorship, leaving DJ Racing without a sponsor or money to race. And Ricky Graham could be out of Camel Pro action for as much as 5 months because of his recently suffered broken leg. Team Honda undecided what to do in the meantime.
The first Grand Prix road races this weekend in South Africa. Freddie Spencer will try to be the first person to win both the 500cc and 250cc championships in 1 year. Wally Dallenbach Jr. escaped injury Monday in a snowmobile accident, but he plans to be at Sebring this weekend. The Formula One race in Rome, scheduled for October 13th, has been canceled, and the 2 possible replacements for Parmalat sponsorship on the Brabhams, Perrier and Matus Wines. Mike Miller, who won an ESPN televised Super B race a few years back and then retired, will return to that series and the Kart B Series.
In this era of wild spending to maintain competitive race cars, at least one group plans to keep the cost down.
ASA will also field what it calls the Grand Mark Series, late models, V6 powered, and rules tightly controlled. The series has a sponsor and a superstar already committed.
I like to be a pioneer in whatever I do, in racing, or mostly in racing because that's what I do most. But I like to start off on the ground floor, and this is a new series, and I think it has a lot of potential. And I think it'll help the local racers, and I think it's something that we can all sink our teeth into and really help the guys that can't afford to run the expensive Camaros and Firebirds on the ASA circuit. Will be able to run these cars on Tuesday night with these V6 engines in them.
One of the most versatile drivers in open-wheel racing today is Chuck Gurney. He's won in sprints, midgets, champ dirt cars, and super modifieds. Tim O'Leary has a closer look at this Northern California racer.
On the day before the first race of the season, California sprint car driver Chuck Gurney and his new sponsor Roger Henderson were making last-minute adjustments to the brand new car Gurney would drive. The partnership with Henderson means the 35-year-old San Francisco Bay Area native will have a chance to add to the 33 race victories he's collected over the last 2 years. Gurney has more than 14 years' experience as a driver. That makes him one of the elder statesmen of the sprint car circuit. He says he likes to help young drivers just getting started, but only if they ask for his advice.
People come up and ask me some information, I'm more than gladly to help, because I had help when I got started racing, and every new young driver needs some help. And the new drivers these days, they know how to stand on the gas, but they just don't know how to use the throttle right. And the car does have a brake pedal and a gas pedal, and the new drivers, they just don't have anybody to help them out as much as they need help.
Ironically, inexperience and youthful exuberance by other drivers ruined Gurney's 1985 sprint car debut at Baylands Raceway in Fremont. His car was broadsided and totaled in a pileup. Gurney himself was slightly injured, but he says he'll be back on the track in a couple of weeks in another new car to pick up where he left off. That's determination and good sponsorship. From Fremont, California, Tim O'Leary reporting for SpeedWeek.
Here's this week's trivia question. The first March chassis IndyCar victory came in 1981 at the Milwaukee 200. Who was the driver of that car? A. Johnny Rutherford, B. Gordon Johncock, C. Tom Sneva, D. Teo Fabi, or E. Mike Mosley. Bob will have the answer in a moment.
Here's the answer to this week's trivia question. Rutherford and Mosley won races in 1981. Johncock won at Milwaukee in '82. Fabi didn't come along until 1983. The answer is C. Tom Sneva registered the first March win at Milwaukee in September of 1981.
There's a relatively new division of SCCA racing that is becoming quite popular. For one reason, efforts are made here to keep the cost down also. The story from Rick DeBrule.
You might say there are only two main rules in Sport Renault. The first is you can paint the car any color you want. The second is you can't do anything else. Now, while that may be a slight exaggeration, it really isn't too far from the truth, and it explains why the SCCA class has caught on so quickly. You see, everyone has to buy the same $10,000 kit based on stock Renault parts. It even has a sealed motor. After 1 year of competition, the main complaint was handling wasn't as good as it should be. So that was changed. There were two changes, and they were both pretty simple. One was this bracket. It was moved out by about 3/8 of an inch. The other one is at the front part. It's a bracket that was lowered by just a little bit. Not much work, but the result is substantially less oversteer.
Well, what it's done is the real good guy, he doesn't notice it at all, but the fellow that's 4, 5, 6 seconds back, he notices it right away, and he's moved right up. So we've essentially taken the field and scrunched them all up into 2 seconds, where they used to be 4 and 5 and 6 seconds apart.
The best part is the kit to make the changes is being sent to every car owner. The other reason Sport Renault is working is because people are buying. Delivery time is down to just 2 weeks, and so far more than 200 kits have been sold. That means an average of 10 to 20 cars per race.
In club racing, there isn't a lot of competition in different classes. Fords, you may have 30 cars, but you look at some of the bigger cars, they may have 3 or 4 cars. So I like the competition.
Because of the stock 1.7-liter engine, some people complain the cars just don't have enough speed. But you might say, like the Formula V series before it, what Sport Renault lacks in speed, it'll probably make up for in popularity. In Phoenix, I'm Rick DeBrule reporting for SpeedWeek.
And who knows, that division could be the division from which we see the next world champion emerge. Next week on SpeedWeek, Sebring, All-Pro at Huntsville, and NASCAR at Martinsville. I'm Bob Jenkins.
And I'm Larry Newber. Have a good week. We'll see you then.
SpeedWeek has been brought to you by B.F. Goodrich, makers of a complete line of high-performance TA radios, and by the STP Corporation. On the world's racetracks, on the world's roads, depend on STP, the car care company.